What's going on, everybody? Aidan from Birds vs. Boys here, and thank God I am here physically, metaphorically, getting me the hell out of Tampa Bay. For the third straight year, the Eagles have gone down there at the end of September, and it is an absolute slugfest. But this time, the Eagles do come away with a victory, and what might be the most Dr. Jekyll Mr. Hyde Eagles performances, of which there have been many so far, with a 31-25 victory. Oh man, did that take everything. Exhaustion, injuries, execution, all of it. We're live here on TikTok as we go through it, as we recap on YouTube. Again, it felt very much like an absolute masterclass in the first half and then teetering on disaster in the second half. I will start here because we should always start with the positives. Positives being the Eagles and their defense, and what was a real feel of 103. I felt hot sitting on my couch. It felt like it could have been 120. Dealing with injuries, the first game without Nolan Smith. Jalen Carter was in and out with a shoulder, and his wrist is clearly bothering him as well. They were forced to be on that field. The broadcast brought it up a few times. It was getting hotter and hotter as the game went along. They were put into positions by their offense where it was constant 3-and-outs, where they were constantly on the field, and they delivered when it mattered the most. Mental toughness that leads you to championships and big wins. This team has it. This defense has it. An interception in the end zone by Jihaad Campbell, and then a sack on the final drive by Moro Ojomo that set up fourth down, where Quinyon Mitchell, the star of the show, and we'll talk about him more as we go on, was able to defense that pass and get them out of there with a win. But I think we should absolutely start with the positives, with that defense, with young guys making big plays in the crux of the game in big moments. I thought overall the defense was, for the most part, incredible today. They were great in the first half and even better down the stretch. It got a little dicey, and really, they were phenomenal aside from two specific plays. For them, though, the one thing you can't do when you're up 18 and when you're up 3 scores is give up the absolute home run. That's what they did. Those were the only 2 plays. And even on one of those, it looked like Andrew Makuba was out of place, and he almost still intercepted that. But for the most part, they did a great job of keeping plays in front of them, sound tackling, something that we brought up on our preview show. They didn't do a very good job last week of containing Kyron Williams and Blake Corum, who got to the outside. Very different today. A very different defensive approach where they were drilled and disciplined on making sure that Bucky Irving could not beat them outside. It felt like every time they tried to run the football, their gaps were sealed on defense. He tried to break it outside. Cooper DeJean was waiting. Reed Blankenship was waiting. Zach Bond was waiting. It felt like that again and again. And for this game, we've known for quite some time, Todd Bowles and his defensive pressure was going to be an issue because it has been the kryptonite for this team for so long. But really, it was the Eagles' pressure. I felt like despite maybe not having the number of sacks, they had 1 sack and 11 pressures at one point in the first half. So they were constantly in the backfield getting to Baker Mayfield. It felt like everything for the Bucs, at least early on, was a 2nd and 8. Again, it did open up for them in the second half with those big plays, a 77-yard miracle touchdown to Emeka Egbuka, who is awesome, but on that play, man, my God. And then again, a 70-yard touchdown by Bucky Irving, which is just the play continued too long for a linebacker to be stuck on a running back. And aside from those 2 plays, this was a very locked-in defense who then locked in one last time to get an interception in the red zone and a sack with 2 minutes to go in the game on the line. It's execution, it's play style, it is the pressure that they are now constantly getting that was absent in week 1. It's now been multiple weeks where they've been able to do it, and they did it absent probably their best pass rusher in Nolan Smith. I think as a cohesive defensive unit, it was a really good approach. Kelee Ringo, I think for the most part, we didn't talk about him too much, which is probably a good thing. I think with him, too much of him trying to tackle up top instead of going for the legs, which is also something that the rest of the guys are very good at. You see Reed Blankenship and Cooper DeJean do that quite often, as well as Zach Bond. But for the most part, Kelee Ringo filled in. I think that was a concern that we had going into this game, and I thought he fared pretty well. And on the outside, opposite of him, Quinyon Mitchell. When he takes the field next week against the Broncos, we are having the top 2 conversation. If you don't know what I mean by that, he's top 2 and he's not 2. We're going into this week realizing that when he takes the field against the Broncos, him and Patrick Surtain might just be the 2 best cornerbacks in the NFL right now. Quinyon Mitchell has already ascended to that today. I thought he was absolutely remarkable. I think it was the best game that he has played as a Philadelphia Eagle, which is saying something because he's been so sound. But we expected him hopefully to take an even larger step in his second year without Darius Slay opposite of him. And he did that today. It's one of the first times that we saw him follow a receiver and Emeka Egbuka, whereas they usually just plays on one side of the field. But this time he was shadowing Emeka Egbuka, did a great job. And throughout, like, I feel like there was a lot of times that they were still targeting him, and he is so good at hand fighting without getting penalized. In basketball, they call it defending without fouling. He might be the best in the league at that, where he has no problem being physical with receivers, but at the same time, he doesn't get penalized for it. And I think he might just be the best in the league. I think next week that's going to be the storyline going into it, is we might walk away saying, no doubt we just saw the 2 best corners in the league. And if Quinyon has a performance like that, I think around the national media and around the league, we're starting to say, man, this kid's next. Like, this might just be the best corner in the league. I thought Cooper DeJean also was awesome. I'll get my rant out of the way now. I think you don't have to be an Eagles fan necessarily to agree with this one. I am done with the overemphasis of the taunting penalties. These guys are 20 to 30-year-old grown men playing football. We don't need an overemphasis on the taunting penalties. It doesn't positively impact the viewership of the game for fans. There was a play where Cooper DeJean was sound in tackling, as he always was, to get the Bucs in 2nd and 8. And they call a taunting penalty on him for stepping over the receiver. He doesn't say a single word, which is exactly what Allen Iverson did 30 years ago, and we still celebrate it to this day. One of the most iconic sports moments in history that's celebrated. He does the same thing, and it's a 15-yard penalty. The next play, there is quite literally a fight on the field, and there are no personal foul taunting penalties resulting from that. Nothing unsportsmanlike that is called on an actual fight. But the play before, they call Cooper DeJean for stepping over. You can call that penalty on any play in these games. Everybody is flexing after a big play. Everybody is doing some sort of first down celebration. You can always call this. You're creating a gray area because you're picking and choosing, and it is not good for the viewership of the game. So I'll get that rant out of the way now. But really, that was the only way the Bucs were able to stay in this game early. They were gifted 60 yards and personal foul penalties in the first half. Their best form of offense was a personal foul penalty. They had 2 on their first touchdown drive to result in 30 yards. And then on their field goal at the end of the half, at the end of the first half, where Chase McLaughlin hit from 65 somehow. I'm going to ignore the fact that he was my fantasy kicker and couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, and then I drop him and he hits from 65 and 57. But on that play, they got a roughing the passer by Jalen Carter that gifted them 15 yards to get close to be in position to make that kick. So really, the only form of offense that the Bucs had in the first half was personal foul penalties by the Eagles. And again, I agree on some of them, but this overemphasis on the taunting has got to stop. I thought overall, this is not me bitching as an Eagles fan. I just thought that the officials did not have a very good feel of the game. Multiple times where they picked up a penalty flag after they had thrown it, which to me signals indecisiveness and not being sure in your calls. And also just some of these, there was one they called a roughing the passer. I forget which Eagle it was, but they hit Baker Mayfield up high. Baker Mayfield was not even expecting that penalty. He throws the ball. He's not even looking towards the officials. He's going back to the huddle, and they call a roughing the passer. It just felt like an officiating group that did not have control of the game and was indecisive in their calls and created a gray area with this taunting. So that was bad. But again, that's another element of the Eagles defense bearing down when they needed to the most and getting the job done. And we've talked so much about Jordan Davis this year. Today, it was the other cast of characters. Quinyon, like I said, Cooper DeJean. I thought for the most part, you saw a lot of great safety work, a lot of great tackling work, not allowing Bucky Irving, who's very shifty. I remember only one time where he made a cutback on Ringo that created extra yards. For the most part, keeping him in front of you as one of the best juking running backs in the game. They didn't really allow Chris Godwin to get involved. Without the physicality of Mike Evans, they brought the physicality to the receivers. You saw the receivers complaining a lot. I think Egbuka is a star, but he didn't have, aside from the touchdown, he really didn't have like an overly positive emphasis on this game because Quinyon was able to take him out and just more surefire tackling. Like I mentioned, Zach Bond, Cooper DeJean, all of these guys, I thought they did such a good job and forcing big turnovers. They get it really bailing out their offense in the second half with those turnovers. The strip of Bucky Irving to give them the fumble to set up the Eagles touchdown in the second half, and the Jihaad Campbell interception in the end zone late to not necessarily seal it, but at least save the Eagles from disaster in that moment. So I cannot speak enough about what the Eagles defense was able to do. Also, I cannot speak enough about the Eagles special teams unit, who gets another one. They start the game today. The Eagles defense gets off the field 3 and out to start it, which already you're there like, well, it's a lot more positive than last year when this team went down here and we got gouged for 3 quarters straight. Death by a million cuts down there last year. Every drive was 13 plays for the Bucs, resulting in points. So right away you say, well, that's a positive. 3 times, 3 plays you're off the field, and you get a block punt return for a touchdown, and you're up 7-0. It set the tone, and it sent a message that this time is different. A place that we have struggled, I have deemed and coined it Citi Field South, because the Phillies can never go to New York and Queens and win against the Mets, and the Eagles can never go to Tampa and win against the Bucs. But today, that sent a message with your first special teams, big play and drive. It's just been such a sound unit that is, like, again, championship level football, gets contributions from all 3 phases of the game. And again, for yet another week, they're getting that from special teams, mixed in with winning the turnover battle and mixed in with getting crucial stops on defense. That is so huge. Now, we're through the positives. I guess we could technically still be going positive, but here, I want to work this from the inverse because I'll get to the offense as a whole. They looked incredibly sound in the first half, but I want to start in the second half because it really sets up my main point about them. The Eagles on offense, and you saw it in the second half, I have never seen a group more talented that tips their pitches more. And if you're familiar with baseball, tipping your pitches is the pitcher kind of before he throws, almost telling the batter what he's going to throw, whether it's fastball, off speed with a slider, changeup, whatever it might be. There's something with his delivery that is telling the batter what he's about to throw. We see this way too often with the Eagles offense, and you saw it immediately in that second half. But this in particular drove me up a wall. It almost cost them this game. So the Eagles have been struggling to assert dominance in the run game the way that they have been a year ago. They tried to do it coming out of the half in the third quarter. That didn't work. You go to the fourth quarter. So here are back-to-back series for them. The Bucs know that they're struggling to run the football. So they come out in shotgun, and it's 3 plays. All 3 plays are throws to A.J. Brown. It looked like they were all the same route, but just different sides of the field. 2 of those passes probably should have been intercepted. But again, the Bucs knew the Eagles had struggled to run, and they might come out and try to throw their way to first downs because they couldn't assert dominance in the run game. But they try to force feed it to A.J. Brown with predictable pass play calls and predictable routes because they're just going to the same thing. That was a 3-play, 3-and-out drive that lasted 12 seconds, which is definitely like a really long time, 12 seconds. Nobody should be ashamed with anything lasting 12 seconds. But you come out the next drive and you're like, okay, that didn't work. So you go 3 plays, all shotgun passes to A.J. Brown. The next drive, they come out in a jumbo package with Latu, their tight end fullback combo, which pretty much almost automatically tells the defense that you are going to run the football. That happens, and then they get a 2-yard loss, and it's 2nd and 12, and they're behind the sticks. They're telegraphing everything that they want to do. Now, here was the positive. One play after that, they go shotgun, run to Saquon Barkley, which is a different look and something different from the previous 2 series, and something that they hadn't been able to instill so far in this game. It gets 10 yards, and you set up 3rd and 2. All right, so that's like a positive. But again, that is because you got the Bucs on their toes. It was unpredictable. You weren't telegraphing in that moment that it was a run. But unfortunately, they come back on 3rd and 2, an obvious pressure situation for a team down 8 and needs to get the ball back. It is a Todd Bowles defense that you know is going to blitz in almost every 3rd down situation. And on 3rd and 2, there's no threat of the run whatsoever. And instead of having something short and a crossing route over the middle, it is a curl route to the outside to A.J. Brown on 3rd and 2. It is elementary bullshit that they are so bad at. You don't have to like football. You don't have to know football. You don't have to watch football. It's simple mathematical distance. It is simple mathematical distance. It's 3rd and 2. They're bringing a blitz. The furthest route, that the furthest distance that the ball has to travel would be an outside curl route to A.J. Brown in that moment. Instead, you have to throw it the farthest point of the field instead of coming over the middle in front of Jalen Hurts. It is such bad, elementary, situational offensive football. It is infuriating. Again, I have never seen a team that is better in terms of talent get themselves so tripped up with being predictable in what they do, not being able to get people off guard, and where they're going to go with the ball with all of this talent that they have, and then not situationally knowing like how to get a team on their heels, because they're telegraphing pre-snap what they're going to do. They are a point guard that is dribbling the ball for 17 seconds of a 24-second shot clock, so all the defense can key in on one player. That's what it feels like. That's what it felt like, force feeding the ball to A.J. Brown in these moments today, where it was either those curl routes that it was an obvious passing situation because the run game wasn't working, and then 2 play action. And I don't even hate the play action, but it was such an obvious, oh, we're going to fake this jumbo package deep ball. And in those moments, the Bucs were on it. AJ was covered. It wasn't a one-on-one. There was a safety over the top. Well, we talked about it with Shane Half on this thing, but I'm sure he'll be doing it this week. He'll be like, there was nothing there. The Bucs read it perfectly. And what frustrates me the most, and why I started with the second half and with all these issues about it being elementary and being so predictable in what they're about to do and force feeding it to certain guys, which makes them even more predictable, is I know that they don't have to do that, because in the first half, it might have been the best half of offensive football that we've seen from this team over the course of the first month. They were brilliant. They were able to get the ball to a variety of different guys. They were able to execute in a variety of different ways. You had a drive that was a seam route to Dallas Goedert for 20 yards, and then an on-the-run play down the field to Devontae Smith after it broke down. The drive before that on a 3rd and 2, and you were brilliant in being able to set yourself up in 3rd and short. They're in man because they don't know what's going to happen next. And you got Vita Vea, who's 500 pounds, no offense, trying to chase down Jalen Hurts for 20 yards to set yourself up at the 2, in which you have an incredible formation that we haven't seen yet this year. Again, back to being unpredictable and how key that is for this team, where they lateral it underhanded Dallas Goedert, and he has the blockers out in front of him like Saquon, Will Shipley. Again, a formation that we have never seen so far this year that results in a touchdown. They come back a drive later. They do a shovel pass touchdown to Dallas Goedert. We haven't seen that this year. So there are wrinkles in this offense that they can go to, and they went to today in this first half. There's the ability to spread the ball around. They did a great job of not letting the blitz get there in the first half, outletting it into the flat to Saquon Barkley and letting him make plays. It was the first play of the game. He gets 12 yards. Where it's just like, okay, it's one-on-one with space and Saquon Barkley. We will take our layups. Perfect. That is great. You had the ball down the field to Devontae Smith. On third down, when it is an all-out blitz and you need a hot route, they snap the ball quickly. They get it across on 3rd and 7 for 9 to Devontae Smith. Beautiful, beautiful football. The way that they were able to disperse the ball, the way they were able to add wrinkles in the offense, and the way, most importantly, because this is the biggest talking point around this offense, because they can't run the ball yet. Tom Brady said it on the broadcast. He thinks, just like the pass should be setting up the run and vice versa. They established being able to pass the ball, and they were so effective. They were so good. Jalen Hurts was 15 of 16, and then wrinkle in his ability to run the ball. And that sets up Saquon for being able to run. That's what you love to see. And I think they got away from that. They got conservative to a point. They're still trying to insert their will, assert their dominance in the run game in these second half situations, and teams are just loading the box on them and threatening them to pass the ball, but they're good at it. They are good at it. Contrary to the Twitter belief, they can actually do that. And they did so magnificently in the first half. It makes you question why they went away from it in the second half. Why there was this, like, Dallas Goedert has 4 receptions in that first half. He had a great ball to the outside for 8 yards on first down. Now you're in 2nd and 2. Shotgun first down, tight end out route, 8 yards, 2nd and 2. Can you ask for anything better from an offense, especially an offense that now puts you in a position where you're in 2nd and 2. You have an all-pro running back that you can hand it off to. You have everything in your playbook at your disposal because you could get into that jumbo package that you like and see if you can play smash mouth football for 2 yards. You can get in the shotgun, and it's 2nd and 2, so you can take that deep shot to A.J. Brown if you want to. And at the end of the day, you're 1 yard away from your cheat code play as it is. So you saw that in the first half, and it was absolutely brilliant. And then in the second half, they totally went away from it. And I don't get it. The 2 best halves of football they've played is when they are able to disperse the football through the air. And another thing, which like the situational awareness thing that I feel like I've been talking about with this team since 2021. Here is like a perfect example beyond the examples that I've already gave. Here's the 1,000th good example of this for the last 4 years. Saquon Barkley gets a run on first down. He gets tackled behind the line of scrimmage. He clearly gets wrapped up, and he's down for a moment, and it looks like he's got an ankle sprain or an ankle roll. He gets up slowly. He's limping. And the offensive coordinator goes back to him on the following play. That's just not having a pulse of the game. Like they just, you talk about like having a finger on the pulse. They don't have a microfiber on the pulse at sometimes. So again, it feels petty to be having these rants after a team goes 4-0 and you're talking about the offense. But it's because of how much I passionately believe that this is an incredible offense. And I think this offense, when it is the motoring the way that it should, it truly, I don't know a team in the league that could stop it. Like I genuinely believe, and I have this confidence still, even with the offensive struggles, that they are capable of winning any game. I never feel out of any game like happened last week against the Rams. Even with 26-7, as soon as they scored to go 26-14, I was like, this is a moment. Like, we can win this. Today, it never felt like the Bucs were fully in control. It was annoying that we gave them momentum back, but it was like, we'll be fine. We'll get through this. You always have this like quiet confidence that kind of exudes from Jalen Hurts as it is, but that just makes you want it more, and it makes you demand more from the offense because I know situationally they could be so much better if they truly tried. And if they truly just executed soundly in those situational spots like the second half. And that's why you get these rants after a team goes to 4-0. But again, it cannot be lost. This is the most important fact. And this is, I keep tweeting it out and TikToking it out after every game. The last time the Eagles lost a game fully quarterbacked by Jalen Hurts was this exact week a year ago. Week 4, last weekend of September in Tampa Bay. They have not lost a game since. They are defending Super Bowl champions, and they are 4-0. There is still an incredible amount to like with this team. Starting and being the exclamation point, the mental fortitude of them in clutch moments exhibited today by their defense. And it just feels like we finally conquered kryptonite. It took everything. We lost some bodies, Jihaad Campbell, Jalen Carter, Lane Johnson, key guys. We didn't make it through the heat again. It took every ounce of sweat. It took every snap. But finally, thank God, we have made it through Tampa week with a win. 5 of 6. We've lost, and this week it felt different. Like I said at the beginning of the game, it felt like this could be a statement moment for it. And going into that half, up 24-6, damn, did it really feel like that. And it turned out to be that way with a 31-25 win. So, again, a little Dr. Jekyll Mr. Hyde today, but they go to 4-0. What you saw from them in the first half, if they play like that on a consistent basis with a good matchup next week against the Broncos, it is hard for me to picture any team really coming in and beating them, especially in Lincoln Financial Field. That is the offense that we want to see run. The tenacity that the defense played with today, I feel like aside from those 2 home runs, obviously, was incredible. And it's more of every guy stepping up. You can point to 4 or 5 guys, most of them rookies or second-year guys, making huge impact plays, which is absolutely incredible to see. That's the rhythm you want to get into. That's the consistency that you want to see. They win again. They are 4-0. We'll be back this week. We're lining up some interviews. We're going to do an interview to talk about what's kind of doing a quarterly report so far this year and talking winners and losers across the NFL and then previewing what should be a really good matchup, like a fun matchup that we don't get a lot with the Broncos and the Eagles. Broncos on Monday Night Football this week, so they're coming into Lincoln Financial Field on a short week. I feel confident in this one. Even after what you saw from the offense today in the second half, I feel really confident in this one. Tell me if I'm wrong. Comment to it here on TikTok and on YouTube as well. I appreciate everybody's support, and we'll talk to you soon. 4-0. The train keeps rolling.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds versus Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Yep. Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things.
I got 2 phones.
Upset alert. Upset alert.
I might go insane.
I think you're already there.
There's no hope. Hope is gone.
If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope.
I'm going to drink bleach.
That is the team you promised me you were going to be this year.
This is the Cautiously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.